Hey everyone, Ted Eftimiadis here from Mango Dogs, and today we're going to talk about the 6 rules to dog-on-dog socialization. Okay, rule number 1, the greeting is the most important thing. You know, as they say, you only get one opportunity for a first impression. This is so important. What I see when I go to dog parks or I take my dogs to the lake is typically people are just allowing their dogs to introduce themselves to other dogs in the wrong manner. What I see is dogs that are in the back of the car, way too excited, barking, their heads are out the window, they're freaking out. The person allows the dog out of the car, doesn't even put them on a leash. He runs as fast as he can at the closest dog he can possibly find, and he walks and runs up to that dog with all kinds of presence and intensity and energy, and that's not the best way for a dog to socialize. Now, why this is a problem is if there's a dog coming out of the park that's just played for an hour and a half and he's got no energy left, and another dog is approaching him that way, or maybe he's even a little bit sore from socializing, that can potentially create some conflict. If your dog runs at every dog that he sees without even thinking about the situation, that can present another problem. If your dog is a 40-pound dog and runs as fast as it can at an aggressive dog that's, let's say, a larger dog like a Rottweiler or a German Shepherd or something of that nature, a very powerful dog, that may not be the best option for your dog to be choosing. So what you want to see is, you want to see your dog looking at other dogs first, taking in information. Typically what you'll see with well-socialized dogs is they'll put their head up like so. They'll start to smell the air. We call that air scenting. As they start to decide whether I'm going to go or I'm going to stay here, if they start to go forward, you'll see them lower their head just a little bit. That's a sign of reverence or humility. They walk towards the dog. Typically, they'll go from behind, smell the dog's rear, and then they'll start to play bow and start to actually develop a relationship from there. That's what normal socialization should look like. Put it in this perspective. They're all predators. And so it doesn't make a whole lot of sense for a bunch of predators to just be running as fast as they can at dogs that they don't know. That doesn't make a lot of common sense. Dogs do it because it's the social norm in our society, unfortunately. It's not the best way to be doing it. And people, for the most part, leave their dogs inside and, they have to work all day long. By the time the dog gets to the park, they haven't worked out some of its energy and it's way too overstimulated. So it makes difficult decisions. It just sees other dogs and goes, ooh, treadmill, ooh, Stairmaster. Okay, so slow down the socialization. Get your dog to think through it a little bit. Smell from behind rather than running up, being cocky and arrogant and egotistical and just using other dogs to get rid of energy. Okay, so stealing things from other dogs. This is one of the most frequent things that causes serious dog fights. Now, there's a lot of arguments that happen in dog parks or, if you're walking your dog in the lake, there's a lot of things that I just see where I go, okay, those dogs are having a disagreement or an argument, but serious fights that have, result in, needing lots of stitches and dogs are in a really bad situation, those almost always start because of resources. So what are resources? Food is a resource. Of course, we'll throw treats in the mix there as well too. Water is a resource that a lot of people don't think about. I've seen lots of people come in and say, my dog got into a terrible, nasty fight over a puddle of water, or, the dogs were tired and we gave them some water and it started a massive brawl between the dogs. Water is a resource. People can be a resource as well too for dogs. Sticks are a very common resource people forget about, and definitely toys. One of the nastiest fights that I was ever told about, a dog almost died, was over a toy. I definitely suggest being very cautious or limiting or not even doing it all, having access to resources when your dog is around other dogs, especially dogs that you don't know. Okay, we're going to talk about humping and excessive barking. Excessive barking is just a socially awkward behavior that dogs will do because they don't know what else to do. And humping is also almost always going to be the same socially awkward behavior. It's just coming out a little bit differently. A lot of people think that humping is because of dominance and whatever. No, it's a socially awkward behavior 99.9% of the time. And so it's not a good thing for dogs to be doing because it can get them in trouble. So don't allow your dogs to do that. Don't allow your dogs to run around and bark at other dogs. That's annoying for other dogs. I have a friend who runs a daycare, and he's told me that the vast majority of the time when he has scraps between dogs, it's because one dog will not stop barking and other dogs they've had enough of it and they'll turn around and they'll try to correct that dog. So humping and excessive barking, stop your dog from doing those things. So you need to be the referee. What is the referee? Well, you need to assume that when you go to the park with your dog, that other people are not going to be focusing on their dog. You know, a lot of times if I were to go to a park, I'll see people, they've got their Starbucks in one hand, they've got their cell phone in the other hand, their text messaging, and their dog could easily be humping another dog, and somebody says something about it, and they just go, oh, they're dogs, they'll figure it out. For a lot of people, going to the park for their dog is just something that they have to do. They want to do something else while their dog is getting rid of their energy. And unfortunately, that's not beneficial. So what you need to be doing is you need to be refereeing. When your dog is doing something it's not supposed to be doing, whether that be humping or excessively barking or chasing a dog that's trying to get away, or a dog that's hiding and trying to get some space from your dog, make sure that your dog understands that's not a valuable thing to be doing, right? Correct your dog, put it on a leash, whatever you need to do to make sure that all dogs there feel safe. So your dog, if it's being a brat, put them in line. On the opposite side of the spectrum, if another dog is encroaching on your dog's space, especially if your dog is a little bit more sensitive, then keep in mind that what you're going to have to do is you're going to have to step in as a referee, because most people will not do that for you. Most people are there to get as much energy out of their dogs as they can while they text message, and that's why they're there. They're not there to make sure that their dog is being good, being respectful, acting humbly. And so a lot of times you'll have to step in and say, that's not okay. When dogs get into altercations, a pack drive just develops, and usually dogs that are very, very social will try to get in there and they'll try to give cheap shots and whatever. Don't focus on the other people's dogs. If you focus on your dog, that's the most important thing. Do not allow your dog to get in there and to follow its pack mentality, because they can get themselves into some serious trouble as well. And finally, don't be afraid to leave the park. Don't be afraid to leave a situation that you don't need to be in. I'm going to tell you a quick story. One time I was at a park. I had my dogs out and I was playing Chuck It, and they were retrieving and they were having fun. A guy showed up with his dog. He let his dog off leash. It ran across the field and ran right up to one of my dogs and started humping it. And this was not in like a playful, like I'm trying to get rid of energy. Like he was like humping it and he was like growling at my dog, and it was very, very offensive. I immediately ran over and I pulled the dog off. I called the guy over. I said, listen, you need to put your dog on a leash right now. This is unacceptable. So he takes the dog across the field. He actually pins the dog on the ground and starts yelling at the dog, at which point he unclips the leash and the dog runs over again and does the exact same thing. Luckily, I was close to my dog. I pulled him off right away. I said, buddy, you need to keep your dog on a leash, please. He takes the dog over, pins the dog on the ground, starts yelling at the dog, lets the dog off again. The dog starts running over. I intercept him and I said, listen, either you go or I go. He ended up leaving. I ended up staying to play fetch with my dogs. Here's the moral of the story. Yes, I came to my dog's aid. But what I should have done is, after the first scenario, as his dog did that, I should have said, please put your dog on a leash. We're leaving now. Thank you very much. I put my dog in 3 compromising situations that day, where he was looking around at the dog going, this is unacceptable. And I know there's a certain level of trust that I actually lost with my dog that day. Now, of course, I've regained it and he trusts me and he knows that I'm going to be able to protect him. But if I would have acted on the first sign of that dog and that owner not complying and not being respectful, it wouldn't have went as long as it went. Luckily, nothing happened, but keep in mind, be very proactive about putting your foot down and saying, this is not beneficial. I always tell my clients, if you have a 5-year-old kid and you take them to the playground and another kid is stuffing sand down their mouth and punching them or kicking them, you're going to have no hesitations about grabbing that kid by the back of their jacket and walking them over to the parent and say, this is unacceptable. Either you keep your kid under control or we're going to leave. And we need to do that sometimes with our dogs. Hope you found this video to be beneficial. As always, check out our website, www.mangodogs.com, if you need any help with your dog. And of course, make sure that you subscribe and like our Facebook page. Thanks again for watching, guys.